I definitely want to talk about "While You Loved Me" too, because I've seen a couple of other interviews that you took part in, and I find the story behind the song here very not just consequential to your career, but also there's a lot of advice in the story behind this song. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. This song came to be as kind of an ode to your grandmother originally. It was a different song, and it really only had relevancy to you. It was a very small sphere of who that song really resonated with, and but it ended up being a top seven hit. So tell us the steps that you took to go from not relevant to relevant, and why is relevancy so important in songwriting?
Yeah, that was a big lesson for me. So I had written this song called "She Stopped Living the Day He Died," which was about my grandmother. Because my grandfather died in his early 50s of a sudden heart attack, and she was kind of miserable and ornery the rest of her life.
Yeah.
And so, the song talked about it had their names in it, it had where they worked. It was, it was very, very specific. And I played it for my family. Of course, they all cry. They know, they knew them and everything. And oddly enough, my grandmother's name was Minnie Cooper, which later we tried to, get her one of those cars, but it did not work.
That's
Um,
amazing.
but I played it for my publisher, and his response was, "That's the saddest crap I've ever heard." And I was like, "What?" And he said, "Nobody's going to want to sing that." And he said, "I'll tell you what I want you to do is go home, come back to me with what you think is the big universal emotion behind that song. And then let's see if we can write something that's more commercial." Um, because he said, "You have a really universal idea behind that song. You just wrote it too specifically to your story.
Hmm.
And you're not letting other people plug their story into it." So I went home and I thought about it, and I realized the universal idea was sometimes when you lose somebody, it feels like you died.
Hmm.
And so I came back to him with that, and he was like, "Okay, great. That's perfect. So now go come up with a title that would convey that in a more universal way." So I came back to him with that title, "While You Love Me." Um, Basically, I was born the day you kissed me. I died inside the night you left me, but I lived while you loved me.
Hmm.
And I told him that, and he was like, "Okay, we can have a hit with that." So we wrote that with Danny Wells. Kim Williams was my publisher. We wrote that with Danny Wells, and it became that first top 10 hit.
And just a remarkable story. I just wanted to catch that here on the show because I love how songwriters evolve over time, within their training, their process, their technique, all of those things. It's always interesting to me to hear about the nuts and bolts of not just a specific song, but the things that you can clearly see that happened after that song came as a hit.